Qatar 2022 is a power play aimed at neighbours more than European critics Barney Ronay. 1 year to go, 11 in the making. Welcome to Qatar 2022, the final countdown, and a World Cup that for all the noise, the sense of fingers crossed and a gaze averted from the bloodier details, still makes no real sense at all. It was easy to feel a bit distracted as Sepp Blatter read out the word Qatar, with a slight break in his voice, shortly after lunchtime on 2 December 2010. There was an edge of hysteria in the chamber at FIFA House. 10 minutes earlier Blatter had broken the red wax seal on another padded envelope and said Russia, to protracted squeals of joy. The crowd had already begun to seethe. Flushed-looking media types veered towards the exits. Blatter himself, so priapically alive in the presence of his fellow shiny gleaming golden orb, the World Cup trophy, had begun to wilt a little on stage, perhaps feeling in that moment the first stirrings of the storm that was to come. The Qatar announcement brought a more localized surge of noise. Sat in the row behind, you could feel the whoosh of wind as the winning delegation leapt up, all except for Zinedine Zidane, whose smooth, bald, muscular head remained motionless above the back of his chair. No surprise there. Zidane went on to wear the same look of a man worrying vaguely about his dry-cleaning ticket, though 3 successive Champions League victories. But it is also hard to argue with that quizzical expression. As of this weekend we have exactly a year until ignition. The opening game of Qatar 2022 will kick off at 10 a.m. GMT on 21 November at the Al Bayt Stadium in Al Khor City, 50 miles from Doha on the northeast coast. It has, safe to say, been an unusually fraught journey to this point, trailed still by so many unanswered questions. It's not about the how. We know now that this was a supremely well-executed plan to procure a first Gulf World Cup, one that makes the English FA's free-buy handbags, the David Cameron in a Westcott optics, look toe-curlingly naive. Zidane was paid $1 million to express his support for Qatar's bid, providing a visible face along with Pep Guardiola and Alex Ferguson for a vast machinery of lobbying and back-channeling. If you believe Blatter, the fate of the bid had been set 2 weeks before Zurich around a lunch table at the Élysée Palace in Paris. Michel Platini has robustly denied switching his vote to Qatar at the request of the French president, Nicolas Sarkozy, and Crown Prince Sheikh Tamim. In Blatter's version, Platini phoned from that lunch saying, "Sepp, it's not going to work, we will have a problem." Which would at least stand as one of the few unarguably true statements in this whole sorry process. Of the people present at that Élysée tableau, Sarkozy is currently serving a 1-year sentence for political chicanery. Blatter and Platini have been banned from football and pursued by prosecutors. That FIFA voting committee has been ravaged by bans and indictments. Zoom out and the light turns darker. Qatar is adamant there have been only a tiny number of deaths around its World Cup preparations. A Guardian report concluded at least 6,500 migrant workers from India, Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka have died in the country since Qatar won hosting rights. If we accept this figure, then we must also accept that this is a World Cup washed in blood, played out in grand illuminated structures that will stand as monuments to the suffering of those who built them. Welcome to Qatar 2022, already one of the most mind-boggling sporting stories ever told. Albeit one that still slips from view. The real question is still, why? Why does Qatar want this? The assumption has been that it is a propaganda event. The phrase sportswashing was coined recently, but that process has circled around FIFA since Benito Mussolini's World Cup and on into assorted post-war despot affairs. It has been assumed that this is what Qatar wants, to present itself as a more liberal, open state, ready to dance the YMCA, to hand over your limited edition pint of World Cup lager, to reposition itself from a liberal Gulf power to just another player in the sunshine leisure economy. And through this door we enter a labyrinth of conflicting principles, a place where no one is ever really clean. Does it matter that Britain and Qatar are so intertwined on every other level? Should the World Cup ever be played in a nation where, for example, homosexuality is still a crime? That was certainly the case in England in 1966, so there is at least some precedent. It makes for a convenient blurring of lines and interests. And how much easier to take a shortcut into this world through pop culture, to expend your resources on paying David Beckham, to look handsomely baffled in scenic locations, on the spectacle of Alexa Chung putting on a leggy display at the Qatari Fashion Trust Awards. Look more closely, however, and this feels blindly Eurocentric. Qatar is one of the wealthiest nations on earth. It is currently the UK's gas provider of last resort, benevolently directing 4 spare tankers to these shores only last month. Why would it need to sell itself? Do we think those in power care what a dwindling strain of Western liberalism thinks about their attitude to things such as freedom of expression? Are they sweating in the marbled corridors over another arch tweet from user @ISLINGTONGUY5555, another moralizing column in the pages of Guardian Sport? Perhaps the key is to realize that Qatar is speaking to its neighbors, not to us. In a tiny nation ringed by hostile powers, the greatest fear is security. The real currency of the World Cup is noise, eyeballs, the rolling news machine, Beckham in pristine white robes juggling a ball in front of a massive fountain. This is all a form of visibility. And who knows, perhaps Qatar 2022 has already served its key purpose through the blockade crisis, when the fear of coups and takeovers seemed to lurk just out of sight. Cut back to day zero in Zurich, and that room was already crammed with A-list oddities, from sporting royalty, political royalty and actual royalty to the sight downstairs of the Mayor of London, Boris Johnson, shambling through the press zone burbling out details of the voting, rolling his eyes and saying, "We never stood a chance," to Vladimir Putin ambling out unexpectedly and sitting in a small chair, center stage, to take questions from behind his wired-up security. Qatar 2022, the football entity, will pass in the usual glare of TV product. But this is the company sport keeps now, the forces that have taken us this far, leaving a trail of crooks, goons and victims in its wake. Just watching this thing feels like complicity at times. All we can really do, 1 year out, is keep telling the story.